My name is James Hewitt. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Hintsa Performance. I'm also an academic researcher, doing my PhD at Loughborough University. And so I've been presenting here at the Firstbeat HRV Summit, as well as listening to some really interesting presentations from a lot of other people. So I work in a number of different sporting environments, quite like Formula One, in motorsport, also with cyclists and endurance athletes, which is mainly where my background is. I think there's really three principles from endurance sport that apply equally well to what I consider to be the endurance activity of knowledge work. I think the first principle is that we need to be really clear about where to focus our effort. I think secondly, we need to start to be more disciplined about when and where to rest. And finally, start to pay more attention to when we are at our best. So I talk about that often in the context of finding and following our own rhythm. So one of the things we see in sport is that athletes need to be very clear about when to go deep, when to push hard, when to go into the red and actually start to create some stress, but then also when to recover and how to recover so that they can recharge and actually grow stronger and adapt in response to that stimulus. So that principle is quite finely tuned and really ingrained in a sporting context. But actually I think we need to start to take those principles and apply it to a knowledge work setting, where actually often we fall into the trap of always being on, never really having that modulation between real hard work and real recovery. Often we just get stuck in the middle. Well, I mean, it does seem that long working hours are prevalent throughout the world. So about 1 in 8 people around the world, according to the OECD Better Life Index, are working more than 40 hours per week. And actually it seems that when we work for more than 48 hours per week, that's associated with a number of negative health outcomes. And so there's a lot of potential reasons why this might be. I think that the fact that we can use various different forms of communication technology that facilitate connectivity has likely extended the time interval between when we switch on in the morning and we switch off at the end of the day. Now, I don't think this after-hours connectivity, this connectivity through emails, conference calls, meetings outside of normal working hours, is necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, because it facilitates productivity, it facilitates collaboration. It might also facilitate people adopting a greater diversity of work-life patterns, people who need to pick up kids from school and then maybe do a bit of work afterwards, for example. I think the issue is that this technology use often means that we have really compromised our downtime. And so what would have been a natural moment of recovery, maybe standing in a queue waiting for a coffee where you'd look around or talk to someone, has become a moment to fill it with pseudo work, switching around on your phone. And in the evening, where maybe you'd relax by watching TV, you don't just watch TV anymore, you switch between that big screen, smartphone, tablet computer 21 times an hour as you're trying to watch Netflix, do a bit of internet shopping and deal with your WhatsApp messages. And so I think technology in and of itself isn't necessarily bad. I'm actually a proponent of technology in many different forms. I really think it's about improving the skills that we've got to make sure that we use these technologies as the powerful tools that they are and become masters of those tools rather than letting the tools master us, which I think is something that's happening increasingly in many societies around the world. Yeah, so when I think about focus, so I can talk about this idea of high cognitive gear. So the time of the day where we're best suited to doing focus work, analytic work, where we're going to be most productive. And actually there's some evidence to suggest that we're best doing that high cognitive gear work during what we call the peak period of our day. And so for people who are more morning types, you might call them early birds, do that focused high gear work during the beginning part of the day. If you're what we call a night owl, which actually is a smaller proportion of the population, maybe your focus period comes later in the day, even into the evening. But regardless of whether you're an early bird or a night owl, actually try to synchronize that focus work with that peak period. And then during that time, there's some simple things that you can do to actually improve your productivity and your focus. So there's a framework I've come up with called the PRIME method. It stands for priority and purpose, mindset and elimination. So first, during that high gear focus period, what is your priority and why is it important? Begin by asking yourself that question. In terms of mindset, often time spent in high gear doing productive work can be quite demanding and challenging. Maybe it might involve some problem solving. So how can you approach that time with a growth mindset? Really setting up a mindset which means you'll approach that high gear time with an attitude that's focused around learning and growth rather than being threatened by the challenges you might face. And the final component is elimination. what can you get rid of to enhance your focus? Practically, that might mean noise-cancelling headphones, turning off notifications, maybe moving to a different room or even a different building. But that prime method, priority and purpose, mindset elimination, and then synchronizing high gear with the optimal time in the day are some practical ideas to really improve your productivity and focus. Well, I actually think there's 3 keys, at least 3, but the 3 that I'll emphasize are: we need to be clear about where to focus effort. We need to be disciplined about when and where to rest. And the third is that we need to find and follow our own rhythm, start to paying more attention to where we are at our best.